So please welcome this beautiful woman, Kelly
Mm.
Blakely, to the show.
Hello,
Welcome,
Kelly
Kelly.
Blakey. Hi, happy to be here.
Oh, all the way from Arizona. But
Yes.
I've in the intro, I already did the intro and before we pushed record again. But I met Kelly through a friend, and it was more of, I want you to experience this. I want you to experience what Kelly does. And so she sends me this book, The Emotion Code by Bradley Nelson. And she said, this is what she does. And I said, okay, whatever you think I want, I'll do it. Like, I just love doing this, that kind of stuff. I know I can always get better. We can always heal our emotions and our trapped traumas or whatever. So I said, perfect, sign me. I'll give me your number. So I do a session. She sends me the notes, and then I sign the girls up. She sends you the notes right after. But I wanted Kelly to come on because it's such a powerful healing modality. I don't know what you call it, but
Sure.
right. That I
Right.
want everyone to know. I've sent you so many of my friends, and I wanted to shout you to all of my listeners so they understand your magic and really the basis of this healing modality and what it really does and how powerful it is, and that you do it over the phone, or you don't even have to be even on the phone.
Right.
So we're all energy, and we talk about that a lot on this podcast. But Kelly, let's go back to, I know you were a foster mom and where this began, like when you first started this, went down this trail of the healing with the emotion code, and why, when you read that book, it just went, oh my gosh, that spoke to my soul.
Right. Yeah. So I was a therapeutic foster parent for 17 years. And then the last 6 years, my foster agency only was contracting with the Native American reservations. So that was an entirely different culture than I was used to. And these teeny girls were not talking. They just did not open up. I mean, so much so that if you ask, what do you want for dinner? I mean, they just look at you like they just are not talking. And I'm trying to work with a therapist. I'm trying to learn about their culture. And I'm not able to get them to feel safe enough to have conversations. Even some of the therapists were like, I don't know what to do. We just stare at each other in sessions. We're not making any progress. So my heart just kept being pulled for them, and I didn't know how to connect to them. And then when I saw that book, The Emotion Code, I was like, this is it. I think everybody in my house was annoyed. Every sentence, I was like, oh, look at this. Oh, I mean, I was just could not get enough. And so then I got certified. They say it takes usually up to 6 months to get Emotion Code certified, and then maybe 9 months for Body Code. I got both of them done in 9 weeks. Like I
Oh
was
my gosh.
6 a.m. to 10 p.m. I was obsessed with like,
Wow.
this is what I have to do. And I also felt it was definitely from God, because at that time it was 4,000, I think, for the Body Code, and I heard I was just supposed to put it on the credit card, but that's not who I was. I wasn't someone that I was like, no, I shouldn't do that. God wouldn't ask me to put it on the credit card. He wouldn't. I but I went ahead, I took the chance, and then 3 months later, I was in the bank, the same bank that I've gone to for 20 years. And the guy says, hey, did you know you have an account here? You have another account you haven't looked at since 2010. I said, no, this was in 2015. I said, I have another account. And he said, yes. I said, how much is in it? He said, $4,000.
Oh, Kelly.
I was like, that's it. Like, I knew.
Amazing. I have
Yeah.
goosebumps. Wow. See, it's like, I just look at, life now at my age, and you look back at your life and you realize you're always provided for, like when you live in that place of, I mean, I used to live in a place of like when I was, opening my day spa and all the things, I kept going. I didn't question it. I didn't look at the fear. I just know that voice in my head is right. And I just got to keep going. And I feel like
Yes.
when you tell me your story, and that these sweet little girls weren't speaking and didn't know how to do it, it was like, okay. And then that it called you, and you just
It,
knew, like it
I
just
just
starts
knew.
to pull the thread, right?
It
So
pulls the
continue.
thread.
Yes. So you
And
finished your you got
certification,
certified.
right? And then I was so excited I couldn't stop talking about it. So I'm talking about it to my foster agency, and now they have red flags of liability because I'm
Right.
not the legal guardian for my foster. I can do it on my kids, but they said, all right, you have to write a paper. So I had to write a big paper about like quantum physics and how it works, energetically with them. And then I did sessions for the case managers, for the therapists, and even the psychiatrist, to be able to get the approval that they said, fine, you can use your modality. And here's even was more confirmation. So I had listened to about 100 hours at least of trainings from Dr. Brad. So, in my mind, I know him, like we're best friends. That really,
Right.
you hear their voice.
Yes.
And so I went to a conference where he was at, and I was like, am I going to go say hi? No, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say. So there was one time we were both in a hall at the exact time. Nobody else was around. And I said, hey, I started to share with him what I'm doing and my heart working with the Native American girls. And he put his arm around me and he pulled me aside. And I'm like, I'm walking with Dr. Brad. And
Oh,
he said, I just got my pilot's license so I can fly into the reservations. That's where my passion is. He goes, anything
oh,
you need. He gave me 30 books that I could pass out to the case managers and try to open up and teach them. And one of the therapists then started becoming on her path to becoming an energy healer.
oh, wow. That's amazing. Okay. Now I want you to talk about, because I've heard your story, but I want everyone to
Yep.
hear it. So then you get this approved. They say it's
Right.
okay because you have been working with this girl that doesn't speak to you, and all of a sudden
Right.
she begins to talk.
Yes, she begins because it was like the panic and the terror. And every time she did open her mouth growing up, she got hit. It just in her particular family, there was a lot of abuse. She started to talk and she said, you want my opinion and you care about what I have to say, but I don't know what my opinion is. I have no idea what to say. I don't know what you want to hear.
Right.
So we started doing sessions. Well, first she was kind of reluctant, and then she came to me and she said, hey, my knee hurts. Can you fix it? I was like, I was all nervous. Okay, this is my one chance to prove it to her that this works. So we went through the whole process, found out she had an imbalance in her meniscus in her knee, and she had a nervousness, trapped emotion nervousness. And she said, I don't know what that is. And I said, well, I muscle tested it, and it said she was 10 years old and it was a male teacher and at school. And instantly she said, oh, that's my friends and I were ditching for the first time. She told me exactly where she was standing against the wall, exactly what happened and how scared she was of the teacher. And we went ahead and released that. And within a very short time, she said her knee didn't hurt at all. She was completely shocked by it. And I said, well, you need to go to high schools and be teaching them not to ditch, else their knees are going to hurt later in life. Made it fun for her. But one of the most rewarding was when we went to her IEP meeting, the individual education plan, and her teacher said, I don't know what you guys are doing, but she's speaking up more in class. She
Wow.
is asking questions because the teachers have no idea what anything is happening. And they just came and reported me the results.
Wow. Oh gosh, that's amazing. When just because I know you and I mean, we're meeting for the first time on Zoom, but what I know from you is your heart. You just have such a big
Right.
heart and you just want to help everyone. I mean, I look
Mhm.
at you and think like, you were meant to be a healer. You were meant to
Hmm.
be connected with these foster kids and what a gift you have been. And I know now you have an empty nest,
Right.
right? And
Well,
that's hard for you, right?
it would have been an empty nest-ish, but my original foster daughter that I had back in 2004 contacted me when she was, I think, 8 months pregnant, and said that they had been homeless for years. And her, long story short, they're back. They were going to stay for 2 months, and they're still here. So But she and her boyfriend are both under SMI for seriously mentally ill. He has had a job for almost a year at Goodwill. They're both doing so, I mean, they're thriving and are amazing people. But no, I plan to be 100% done with foster care after 17 years. But like I said, God had other plans, and just to see it on a different level, taking the chance, because I could have been nervous, bringing them into the house. I knew how she was as a kid. I didn't know how she was as a 32-year-old,
Oh, okay.
adult
Wow. So it
pregnant
was that long.
woman. Yeah. Well, she actually moved out. It had been probably 10 years since we had lived together. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to hear it. So she had the baby. We had him here for about a month, and then she put him up for adoption and went to the same family that has her daughter. These people could never have kids, and so it was just a gigantic blessing to them how it all came together.
Wow. Oh man, you've probably seen so much of those miracles, especially with what you do. But I want people to understand the emotion code healing, and I know when you were studying it, and I know it takes to get certified and all that,
Right?
But you did it in a fast pace because you just you felt that in your body that this is it.
Sure.
But explain it, because when I did it, people understand muscle testing. Explain the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. Can you go there? Because that's where I feel like the basis of this, so people understand how those two are different and how that relates to what you can do through, our subconscious mind.
Yes, absolutely. So have you heard the term, we only use 10% of our brain or our mind? So that's the 10% that we're consciously talking to each other. But the other 90%, you're using all of your brain. It's processing your food, it's digesting your food, your blood, your breathing, is all the involuntary. But your subconscious mind is like Google. It remembers everything that has ever happened. But like Google, you have to be able to ask the right questions. If you change the wording just a little bit, you'll go down a whole different rabbit hole in your subconscious. So through muscle testing, it's a diagnostic tool to find out the who, what, when, why, where, how that this stuck energy is trapped in your bodies. Even prenatal trapped emotion. So when your mom, if she had some trauma or terror go on while she was pregnant, then you will absorb, the infant can absorb that before it's even born. So you can't go to a therapist and talk about those kinds of feeling of being unwanted if you didn't even know you were unwanted, if they never told you that, right? They maybe didn't want you to be born at all. And then by the time you were 2 or 3 months, you were the best thing that's ever happened to them. And you never felt unloved. But something about, I don't want this baby, and all the fear and panic while you are still in the womb, you wouldn't be able to even know what that is. So through the body code, which has 227 mind maps, every organ, every system, every gland, every vertebrae, and a whole bunch of other tools I use, we muscle test and say, what is going on? Because if you got your vision board and you're going to do it, but that's 10% to 90. That's a losing tug of war.
Right.
We got to find out. And even I compared it to, like, if you go to therapy, I got my bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's in social work. So I was going to go into the traditional therapy. But that's like, therapy can teach you how to handle the rock in your shoe when it comes up, when it's annoying, how do you work around it, where energetically, let's get that rock out. So it's not even going to come up and be a thing.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yes, totally. But when you do a session, you ask the person, you asked my girls let me go to Paige for an example. She was getting ready to do her pageant and she's always gotten first runner up. So I'm telling this to everybody because it doesn't have to be like a trauma that you think, like something you could say, gosh, like Paige did. Okay, Kelly, I've never won Miss California. And I want you to clear my energy and why and where it's linked to, and why I've always, basically got first runner up. So after her session, she had a couple with Kelly before we went to Arizona for the pageant, and she won. And I was just telling Kelly that before we hit record. I thought, I forgot because I was reading the notes and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's that's this one little simple thing. And I want you to talk about other stories, but explain to everybody like how it goes. And you have the, is it A or B, the chart, how you look at that?
Right. So I have, I don't even know, feels like hundreds of different charts that I can go to, and I'm muscle testing and saying, is the imbalance, is it in the body code? Yes, it is. Yes. Is it under mental?
Okay.
Is it under emotional? Okay. It's a trapped emotion, trapped emotion of unworthy, low self-esteem, even right up to the mental energy of not good enough. Some people say, who am I to be able to win over somebody else? Sometimes people really want to win. They got tender hearts. They don't want anybody to lose.
Right.
And so that's an inner struggle. I will be happy, but you'll be crying, and because you're crying now, I'm going to be sad. And it's a lot of conflicting, confusing information and emotions for young people.
Right.
So how does Paige win and be okay and feel good about winning? And so we removed those blocks, and I didn't find out till today. So it looks like that removing those are the right ones. Dr. Brad has also said we may not you'll get results as far as it's going to improve, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, but you may not get the exact particular one you're looking for in that minute. It's like a giant manure truck. So we're to every release, we're taking the shovel of that crap off of you, but how many shovelfuls is going to get to? But it's a little bit quicker with children because they haven't had 40 years of imbalances built up. We can get to the heart of it much quicker.
When you say the benefits of doing this, like why someone would want to do this, after I finished, I'm like, calling all my friends, oh my gosh, here's Kelly's number. You need to do this. It's going to release these blocks. And I have clients that I work with that I thought, gosh, just adding Kelly to my courses, my clients have said, wow, that really has changed. Like what's working. I'm like, I know she takes those blocks and removes them and they get it. But it's when people, like I've been looking at Bradley's, some of his YouTube videos to understand it more, but he talks about the heart wall.
Right.
And how the heart wall is, but that was interesting to me because I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah. So how he describes is pretty much anybody over the age of 2 or 3 has a heart wall. And he talks a lot about people in prison that have heart walls and how, because they had that heart wall, changed their behaviors and their views, which could have, strongly contributed to them manifesting what they had already believed, that nobody cares about them, nobody loves them. So the heart wall is that wherever you're stuck and trapped emotions are, all those emotions come up to protect your heart. And so how that could feel is if I'm sending you 100%, if you have a heart wall, I'm sending you all the love. Like I love you and I'm sending you love. And it's going through all of your filters. You're only feeling it at like a 20, 30%. So you're saying, I don't feel love. And your partner's like, I'm sending you as much love as I'm capable, but you're not able to receive it. Or you're sending all the love you can and your partner can't receive it, or your child can't receive it. And you feel like I'm a very loving mother, and your child feels like you're detached and distant because they can't feel it, because it has to go through all of your defense mechanisms and all of your protective barriers and egos. So when you release your heart wall, you're able to give and receive love in a way you may not even know was possible, which is.
There was a picture of like a brick wall when he was showing this description, and how your heart it communicates to your body. Like your heart is, what did he say? Like
second brain.
It's like your second brain. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your heart is your second brain. And how these heart transplant patients who got their new heart from, I mean, this one little girl got a heart, she was 7, and the girl she got the heart from was murdered, like was in a shooting or something, but they saved her heart, and she had nightmares of that accident or that terrible
Crime.
experience
Right.
and helped solve the crime. So when you
Right.
realize that your heart is really like, your second brain, and just that way to understand too, is like, if you have that wall that's blocking that.
Right.
And
Yes.
I mean, we all have the wall, right? I mean, are
Right.
people just, how do you know if you have this, like a brick wall? You just
Right.
don't feel the love?
Other people will kind of let you know, whether you choose to recognize those signs or signals, right? If they say, oh my gosh, you're hard to get to know, or you're a tough nut to crack, or if you're easily offended, or that's not even how I meant to say it, I meant to say it like this, and you just
Ah,
take things wrong. Because like, so if you love your daughter more than anything, you know her character and her personality. If she says an offhanded comment, you're going to be like, that's not even Paige, she must have had a bad day. Or,
right.
oh, my daughter is turning into an adolescent jerk, I can't believe, I mean, you could really take it all in. Then that's because you're not able to even look at the character, the circumstances of why she said what she said. It's just immediate reactions, or kind of numb. And then they can't feel the emotional, they numbed out the pain. But when you numb out the pain, you also have a tendency to numb out the pleasure.
Right.
And people are scared to death to keep their hearts open because they don't want to have the pain, but then they're going to miss out on the joy, the excitement, the euphoria
Right. Huh.
that can come with it.
So so tell me, go through that. Like, let's say I'm with you and you're doing a session with me, and you're going to I'll tell you, Kelly, I really want to work on my heart wall.
Right. So I first will muscle test, do you have a heart wall? Most likely would be yes. And then we would muscle test how big it is, because it also helps people to know, they like to know that they're seeing the progress. In case it can't, Dr. Bradley says 3 to 8 sessions to release the heart wall. With my experience, it's usually been more like 2 or 3. But depends how much people can release in a session. There are sometimes processing symptoms. Some people, they can release 20 imbalances, no problem. Some people can only release like 8 or 10, and their subconscious shuts down and says, I can't do it anymore. I need a few days to recuperate.
Do you
So
sense that? Is that what you're noticing, that their subconscious shuts down, or they just can't?
yes,
You're doing that
either
with your
way,
muscle testing.
yes. So some people will fall asleep, and then although I can keep working even they're sleeping, but I'll muscle test and say, is this in their best interest? Is this safe? Or should we continue doing the releases? Is it safe to continue? Because it could be a whole gamut, which is mind boggling. Just a real quick, I remember I was doing a session for my daughter we were on vacation. She was not with us, and another kid was there. And I said, oh, I better not do too many, because I don't want her to get like a processing hangover.
Oh,
And he was like, what? You can affect her mood from here? How, what? Like, it was just mind boggling to see that you could affect somebody else. But, energy is fluid. If you're really thinking of somebody and then you run into them at the grocery store, right? We've all had those kinds of
right.
things, but sorry, I digress. So I would say, how big is your heart wall? Some people like to know what their heart wall is made of. It could be made of, sometimes it's limitless on what it could be made of. It could be very personal to them. If that's some childhood, even flowers or something that they liked when they were a kid, that what they use or subconscious use is something to be safe. So it could be, metal, fire, even. It doesn't have to be something hard. It could be their favorite candy or something that kept them safe at that time.
Okay.
I'll always muscle test to see if it's safe to release the heart wall. Generally, it is. But as Dr. Bradley Nelson said, if somebody is currently and going to continue to be in a domestic violence situation, it would not be safe to release the only armor they have if they're staying in that situation. Because when you release the heart wall, And the same when you set boundaries, you're going to show up differently in your life, and not everybody is going to like the change too.
Right. What about like making marriages better? Like, can people come and like really like have the love flow even more?
Yes, the love flow even more. That's an excellent point, because without the male or the female being so guarded, keeping their wall up, they can look at the bigger picture, and they can give them the benefit of the doubt. And then she or he is able to give love more. And if you are loving your partner in a way that they need to be loved, it's much easier for them to love you in the way that you need to be loved. So the amount of times you take offense and the insecurity, and how you would take something as that is a betrayal. You're like, I was caught in traffic. I was 10 minutes home. I didn't mean to disrespect you and not be here on time. The amount of stories that people will tell themselves when you don't have your heart well, your brain doesn't, try to jump to all those conclusions to protect you. And you can actually
you're
listen.
Neutral.
You're neutral.
Right.
And now I can say, is there a reason you were late? Instead of just creating a whole story all by myself, and then I'm the judge, jury, and prosecutor
Right.
for the other person without even waiting to ask.
Right. It's so, I live in a neutral world now after, the last 3 years or so of doing some of my own little spiritual work, understanding, I don't know. I really see life in just like this beautiful moment. I've really trained, gotten to that place. And when I see the outside, I see clients of mine, that I can see it in them. It's like I'm looking at your heart wall right now.
Yeah.
I mean, in your vocabulary.
Sure.
And I just want to, like, even the kids that I work with, and I see these walls, they're blocks, but to have what you can do to get rid of them. Like, let's go with my friend's daughter. So she was having issues with her dad. They were divorced, and she was struggling with father issues, and how I was like, she was saying, it's like a miracle. She's even got to be with you in person. But describe that, like when children have trauma from a divorced family or a mother or father, that, explain that, because that can go back in your ancestors. I mean, that can go back what,
right,
400 years?
Yes,
right?
Yes, right. So it's not only what this particular girl is feeling in the minute, it's also all the abandonment and all the rejection from her lineage of other women that have been, almost displaced by either father figures, or could even be males, in the same aspect. Whatever it is contributing, it's compounded so much more than just what this person is going through right now. But yeah, so she wanted to work on not being affected by her father and not needing to seek approval. And that's a tough one, just to say, well, okay, here's these mantras, and just don't care what he thinks. Right. She is wired and programmed for her own survival to care what her father thinks. So we needed to clear out that bucket of the insecurities where, the father didn't intend for his actions or tones to be taken the way it was by her, and I think the big difference in this generation versus ours is, I don't remember, well, for me, my parents overly caring about how I was affected by their tones. They told you what to do, you do it. Like, that's it. Right. And now it's, he said it mean, or he said it this way. And the parents today are like, what? They're not noticing how much these kids are trapping and carrying on with those emotions. So the dad would have to parent completely different to this girl than he was parented.
Right.
And that's not happening. So being that she's more of a sensitive soul than he was even allowed to be, maybe he wasn't allowed to be. Whatever he does, she takes it as a personal attack of, I'm not good enough. And that it was not his intention, but that is what was happening. So not feeling good enough. If he loved me, he would. if. And to him, he might be, if I love her, I will work extra shifts at work and provide for her financially, because we don't live in the same house. And she has the love language. If you love me, you would spend time with me.
Right.
And he thinks he's showing love by providing the financial income to her. But to her mind, nope, I'm not good enough because you're not spending time with me. Whereas he's like, you're so good, I'm willing to work double shifts to spend, to provide
Right.
for you.
So how do you go there? So what are you doing? So explain that. So you're
Yes.
taking this little girl's energy,
Right.
and then you're clearing past, it could be, past generations of the unworthiness and the male issues, right?
Sure. Yes. So I will muscle test with the subconscious and say, what are the underlying imbalances why this person is seeking father approval? Or what are the underlying imbalance that no matter what the father does, you still aren't able to feel loved? Why are you not able to receive love? What is it in you that's preventing you from giving your own self-value? So these are what I type into the notes, and I'll muscle test them, because you and I might think number one, that's the most important one. And subconscious says, no, number three is what's causing the imbalance in 1 and 2. So we always go with what the subconscious has to say, God and the subconscious working together. And it may be inherited. It could be inherited of taken for granted 20 generations back. And I got like this, magnet here, and through intention and prayer, I run it down the governing meridian. If you're in person, it'll go down her governing meridian. If it's over the phone, I go down my own as proxy, because a magnet can clear the energy of a credit card or a hotel room key, so it clears energy. So when we call it out and we find it, I muscle test, trapped emotion, unworthy, age 4. What's nice about this work is it can be very private, or you can put all the details out there. Right. Like I said, I have the education. I've been in behavioral health 30 years. So I can use a lot. I could do a lot more therapy and life coaching and all that. Or if somebody wants to be private, like I don't want to say or talk about anything, boom, she can be perfectly quiet. And then we find those out. And then energetically, once we call them to the surface, it's like it's released from deep within, comes just underneath the skin. And then energetically, we're able to release it from its kind of hiding spots in the liver or the kidneys or your nervous system. So the energy is stuck somewhere.
Magnet,
yeah,
but you're using that magnet on your own body when you like with when we were doing, like right now, we were doing a session with me, and you would pull
every time. Yep. So I'm doing it over my own, because governing meridian can go from my chin up to my nose, down all the way back to your tailbone. So if you're in person, I'm going to run it down yours, and I'm either going to say the prayers over you, or the insights and the intuition, or even if your relatives start giving messages, that can happen. Because I don't always know exactly, because I leave it up to God. I'll tell you a quick story. I had a gentleman who was like 65. I was brand new doing this, came in person, and I was giving him all of these wrestling analogies. And I didn't know anything about wrestling. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, he's going to think I'm a weirdo. Why am I talking about wrestling? And then at the very end, I said to him, I'm so sorry. I hope you understand wrestling analogies. I don't even know why I was saying those. And he said, I wrestled all 4 years in college. Look at my ear. You see I have this cauliflower ear. And I thought, well, that's why you needed those analogies. I had to get out of my way, and the analogies for teenagers will be very different than, what comes through for any other variety or walk of life or age of person. So it's very custom, and I like that it can be very private for the people that they want to clear it, but they don't want to tell anybody the good, the bad, and the ugly of what happened.
And to prepare for a session, and for you to prepare to get in alignment or get your energy clear, or what do you pray? I mean, I know we do a prayer before we start, but what do you have to prepare before you get on the session?
Yeah, I always try to get centered with God and ask him to speak through me, to take away my own, whatever, my pride and ego, or my need to be right. because maybe I want to be like, I'm helping this person. Nope, I'm just the extension cord. So
Right.
so it's nothing to do if they did well or not well, that it was all the God's healing. And yes, I'll say certain prayers or get into a specific type of energy, um, space modality. I like to use essential oils and crystals and prayers and things. And yeah, getting out of the way and just letting the higher powers handle it. Because
Yeah.
otherwise we try to intellectualize everything because we're trying to keep that heart um,
Protected.
protected, because we're so scared of people and what they can say.
Yeah. When you say like, okay, well, we're done. So you're gonna be having these, you could feel nauseous or you could have headaches. Explain that because that's fascinating.
Right. So I try to include a paragraph of potential processing symptoms. It's like energetic surgery. So wherever these is stuck in your body, some people can handle the energy moving around and clearing their system. Some people cannot. I had a woman up the street from me. We traded services. She's a hairstylist, but she had so much. We were speculating on this, either so much trauma, we couldn't figure out why she processed so hard. I never did her sessions, maybe a couple times in person, but really she just sent me a list, do it whenever you want to. I didn't even tell her when I was
Oh,
doing it. She just do it whenever. And then she would message me, did you just do my sessions? I feel like I'm going to throw up. And I was like, what? And
oh my gosh.
she would get physical. She was so connected. She was a Pisces. I don't know how much you know about the astrology, but certain signs were a lot more emotional, a lot more connected. So she said, I have too busy of a life to have these. I don't have the time to heal, just work on my kids. So I would do the sessions for her kids, and she would be like flu-like symptoms when I worked on the kids. It wasn't even her own sessions.
Wow.
Um, and she said, I think I'm overly codependent and enmeshed in my children. She came up with that because she was so connected, but majority of the people do perfectly fine. Usually they just get extra sleepy, vivid dreams, and just a little grumpy
Hmm.
for 1 or 2 days when the energy is releasing. Yes, that is what I'll do. Another quick story. When I was doing on my daughter, when I first was started this, I was like, oh, this is a good etch a sketch type. You remember the etch a sketches?
Yes, I love those.
Right. So I started doing sessions. What imbalances can I release that my daughter, um, something like what imbalances directly because of me? All right. So I want to etch a sketch anything. When I grounded her for 8th grade for something her sister did, it had nothing, she didn't do anything. I didn't know. She got in trouble. Any hostilities that she's holding towards me, let me just go back any of the poor
Right.
parenting things. So I was like, yay, they won't know I did anything wrong ever, energetically. I'm going to clear the intensity for them. And so it was like on a Sunday, I said to her, oh, hey, I did a session for you last night. And she goes, is that what happened? And I go, what do you mean what happened? And she goes, well, my friend came over as a lifelong friend. So I knew this kid too. And she goes, I just started saying all these kind of mean things about you. And my friend goes, what? Why are you talking about your mom like that? She goes, I have no idea. Because I was stirring up all the stuff directly
Wow.
between she and I didn't know she was going to have any processing symptoms. And so what I learned from that is if I have husband and wives or, people that live in the same house, I say, try to not talk to each other for the next, if you can, a little bit, a day or so. Because if your husband's did a lot of stuff you're holding in your resentment bucket, right? Could be 10
Right.
years ago. You clear it out. He walks into the room and you're like, oh, like you're just all pumped up again just for a day or so until it can release your body. And then you can reconnect without those obstacles in the way.
Oh, wow. When you talk about the emotion code and the body code, those are two separate books, right?
Right. Well, the emotion code so the body code itself has 227, I say mind map screens and the emotion code is just one tiny part of the body code. So it's
Okay.
only going to be the emotional part. So some people become emotion code practitioners and only stop there, and they don't work on as much the whole, mental, emotional, physical. I mean, yes, emotional, but the ligaments, the organs, the fascia, finding out where it's trapped physically in the body. So it's the same, Dr. Nelson, but one tiny piece in a sea of the totality of your body.
Because in my reading, I remember you saying something about my pituitary gland. I printed them out, but amygdala,
Right.
energetically. So what do how did that come up?
Right. So you know how a lie detector test, they're measuring the energy right off of the cuff, and they just ask yes or no questions in a lie detector test, and then manage or monitor the energy. So I am doing that. So on my computer screen, it'll have 6 screens, and it'll say, circuits and systems and toxins and energies and nutrition and lifestyle. So I'll say, whatever this imbalance is, what is interfering with this person achieving this goal?
Hold on, I'm
And
going to go let my dog,
sure.
just one second. Okay, got my
It's
dogs squared away. So
okay.
go on.
Yes. And so when I'm muscle testing, is it on the left? Is it on the right? We're really just troubleshooting. Is it here, here, here? Kind of like if you go to the mechanic and there's a check engine light on your car, but you don't know what it's for. He can just plug a tool in, a diagnostic tool, and it will tell him what's going on with the car. So that's what your subconscious does. So we're saying, is it here? Is it here? And then I go to all these different sheets, and we could end up with parts of the brain. And then is it going to be pituitary? Is it going to be the hypothalamus? Is it going to be the amygdala? And where is this stuck energy in your brain? And then first, where is it? And then what is it? And then it could be this negative belief. It could be a despair anchor, some kind of programming. It could be from a TV show that you watched over and over and over that you didn't even remember you were watching, but it was those subliminal programming, especially for kids, that you're just you're not even paying attention, or the commercials that is, that so many people we've seen so much with our eyes that we didn't even know that we've seen it.
Right.
You could be standing in the room and your parents are watching something that you're not allowed to watch, and they don't even know they were watching it, and you completely forgot, but it's made such a drastic impact in your body that you're scared to death of sharks because you happen to walk by Jaws. We think that's silly, but it really can affect people's lives, and they can't necessarily talk about it because they don't know what it is. Or they're too embarrassed. I will say that with that same foster daughter, we were doing it for about 6 months, doing the sessions, and all of a sudden she stopped. She just said, I don't want to do them anymore. I don't want to do them anymore. And I respected it, but she wouldn't say why. And every couple months I was like, come on, you want to do them again? And she was like, nope. And then finally I said, why? Can you tell me why? And she said, well, because I don't want you to know what my family did to me, and I've chosen to forgive them. And I don't want you to, because some of the things were kind of horrific, and maybe the average person is not going to forgive. And she just didn't want the family secrets to come out. But I told her, hey, if you forgive, it's her story, her life. She forgives. I'm not here to judge them. But we can even do the releases without digging down. So if she has panic, trapped emotion, panic, usually her body can clear that. We don't have to say, was it at school? Was it at home? Was it a mom? Was it a dad? We can clear the energy without knowing who else was involved, because she didn't want to not only share her story, and she didn't want anybody else to know what it was. But we're still able to clear that energy. She still will have her memories, but say on a scale of 0 to 10, before it would affect her to 8. If she talked about it, her blood pressure would go up. You could physically monitor the intensity. Now she could be able to talk about it, but maybe it's going to affect her at like a 2. So we're changing the intensity of what she actually lived is interfering with her being who she wants to be or living the life she wants without invading her privacy.
Wow. How many times, I know you say you could clear somebody's I mean, it depends on how deep that trauma is embedded in
Yeah,
your subconscious.
right. And how many years if you've had a reoccurring uh sometimes. So if she had domestic violence, say, and it happened always around Christmas time, some people's bodies will be able to, okay, I'm going to clear the panic, the terror, the shame, at Christmas of 2012, but then it happened again in Christmas of 2014. Just like if you broke your arm
Right.
2012, you get it fixed, but if you broke it again 2014, we have more, a different one. Some people's bodies will allow them to clear more, so I'll ask if your body will can you clear more than one panic or trauma for a specific event, and it just depends how much. And some people's subconscious want to hold on to it because they feel they need to hold on to it to make dang sure that doesn't happen again.
Right.
So
Like the heart wall, right?
right, just like the heart wall. Yeah.
Yay, I'm
So
learning.
yay. So then we say, what do we need to release so your subconscious will be willing to let this go? So your subconscious doesn't feel, no, we have to hold, you are such a dingbat, you're going to allow somebody else to treat you this way. You're never going to forget. So now we have to get their subconscious to be able to trust their conscious, because how many times does the subconscious say, don't do that? That's not a good idea. And we're like, oh, it's fine. And
Right.
we just hit it on me. I'm fine. I'm going to do it anyways. And your subconscious doesn't trust you anymore. So it's either going to block it, just like people could get really sick if they got to go to family reunions. There's certain things they don't want to go to. Their subconscious doesn't really trust them to handle it. So I'll just remove you, and I'm going to give you the flu, or I'm going to give you a migraine because I'm protecting you. So when we can get your conscious and subconscious to communicate and trust each other, there won't be that quote unquote sabotaging that people will call it.
Right.
Because
I mean, it's your
you will,
intuition. It's like trusting your
yeah,
intuition. That's what it,
right,
like I try to tell the girls, like, as a mom teaching, because I think that's such a, so many people don't trust it, or don't even ignore it, or, are led in life blindly, but have this
right,
tool that we all have to direct our life and listen and go and trust and surrender and, push past all the fear and all that's stopping you from living this life. But to have that, to know that you can connect the conscious and the subconscious, I love that. I mean, I never thought of it that way.
right. I'm thinking of almost like that parental energy. If your kid is 15 and wants to go to this big party, and you're like, trust me, it's not safe. They're like, what do you know? It's safe. And they're going to really try to argue back and forth, and it's maybe not safe. And they should not be there. And so your subconscious is telling you, hey, don't go to this. And you're like, but it's going to be so fun. But the benefits are going to be worth the consequences. And your
Right.
subconscious is like, you don't even know what these consequences are going to be. I know. And so that's where I don't think you can always trust us, because we want what we want when we want it.
Right.
And you would have to deny yourself. You don't mind if your intuition gives you good news, like, hey, go to the bank at this time because you'll be the 100th customer and you're going to get $1,000. Oh, I'll go.
Or 4,000.
Yes. Oh, hey, that's right.
That's amazing. I love that story. We're coming to the end.
Okay.
It always goes so fast. But how can we find you?
My website is www.helpinghealer.com. And
Okay.
it's and everybody wants to add a second L. Don't feel bad, but it's Kelly Blakey, Blakey.
Oh,
Everybody
I did.
says Blakely.
Blakey.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you told me that, because I probably have it written Blakey. Blakey.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They just like
Okay.
to give it. That's the easiest way to go that. Or if you want my email, it's ckblakey, Blakey 9 @yahoo.com. And I'll be willing to talk to you. Like I said, I use a whole bunch of different modalities because I've been in this field for so long, and I've been so many different types of people that I can relate to so many different types of people.
Right.
There's
And
never
there's never what? Keep going.
I would say there's never any judgment, because I really think we are all have the same kind of frequencies. Just depends on how intense we're allowing it to be. I was just talking to a friend of mine today about in the Bible where God says that that all sin is the same. And I used to be like, well, that's not fair. Stealing a candy bar is the same as stealing $10 million from a bank. That's not fair, God. I should have much less. But it's the same energy of being sneaky, of lying, of stealing. It's just the intensity, but it's the same kind of energy. So that's why no judgment, because I may not have experienced exactly how you chose to show up or this person, but we've done things on the same energetic grid.
Right. Yeah. Oh, you're just an angel. You're here on this earth to do what you're doing, and you found your passion. And people, when you're drawn to someone, I don't question it. That's just my way of living. And I know that when Kennedy said, "Oh, I want you to meet Kelly," and I'm like, okay. But I want when everyone that's listening, like when something's drawn to you, like I've learned so much just having guests on this podcast, even asking guests to come on and, thinking, oh, who am I to, and then they say yes. And then I started an amazing relationship with these people. And it's just life and teaching children as a parent to have that same, like in the life we're in right now, like I feel like we're just expanding so fast, and we're just taking on this whole different, way of living, that this kind of, I just see what you're going to do is, I think, he said, Nelson, Dr. Nelson.
Yeah, Doctor. Yes.
He was saying like, there's only what, 2 or 3, how many practitioners, how many people are out there doing this work?
Right. I think at that time there was only like maybe 3,000. It's other countries have been knowing this stuff for years, but in America, they'd rather not everybody, I don't offend anybody, but it might take a session or two to be working through knee pain or this or that, or you could pop anti-inflammatories, right? Or you could take muscle relaxers. So we're just used to getting it so much quicker. And some people don't put as much time in getting to the actual root, but that's where the long-term change comes in.
Right. And then when you say let's say I heal, or my daughters heal their unworthiness that was 400 years back in my mom's side of her grandmother, right? Like there it goes. You get there, you clear that. Now they're cleared of that. Does that, now they have their babies and they don't carry that into the next generation, right?
Absolutely. I told one of my daughters, hey, let's clean up some of those eggs you got in there, because I want healthier grandchildren.
Oh, right. But you can do that. That's what this does.
Yes. The youngest I've ever worked on was 5-month-old infant, worked on the ancestral inherited with the Native American traumas. So to help him start off his life a lot better without carrying as much from just being born. He was carrying already some pains and trauma. Epigenetics, they're proving now with science that it's not only hair color, height, etc. You inherit traumas from past. So all kids, right? I wish all therapists would do this. Anybody in the helping field, it would get a lot quicker, because a lot of people don't know what's wrong. They know something's wrong, but they don't know what it is.
Right. And all they need to do is call you and lay on the couch or a bed.
And I'll use humor and I'll go with their energy, and it'll be very, very personalized. You can have a great time. You can cry your eyes out. The sky's the limit on however your healing is going to go.
I know. Paige said, Mom, I think I fell asleep for a little bit. I said, that's okay. It was still working.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you're so fun. I loved talking to you. Thank you so much for being here today. I can't wait to meet you in person. I will meet you in person.
Well, very soon, I hope.
I know we will. Anyway,
okay.
Thank you so much.
You're
Kelly.
welcome.